You know how sometimes when you look at someone's mugshot and you see tears in their eyes and you have to wonder to yourself, why are you even crying? Because you put yourself in this position. Well, that definitely applies here. Now, sometimes when someone's crying in their mugshot, maybe they possibly didn't do anything and they feel like they got railroaded. But in this case, that definitely was not the case. So in this picture, you see a woman by the name of Sandra Kolalu, and she has been charged with multiple murder charges because she dismembered her landlord and put her in the freezer. Now, you want to know what's interesting is this is the second landlord type of story that I've done this month. Now, y'all remember the one that I recently did about that Asian woman who killed her landlord when her ex landlord discovered that she was forging his signature on checks and basically stealing money. And she basically did the same thing to him because I think she killed him and buried him or tried to bury him. I think she may have dismembered him too. I can't remember exactly sure, but it was pretty gruesome. And now you have this woman right here who dismembered her landlord and stored her body pieces in a freezer. So I'm going to go ahead now and read this article that was posted October 13th, 2022. And it's coming out of Chicago. A dismembered woman's body was found in the freezer of her own residence on October 10th, and police took a tenant of the deceased in custody later. Sandra Kolalu, age 36, a tenant of 69-year-old Francis Walker, was the prime suspect for the murder, as reported by another of Francis's tenants. Sandra has since been charged with first-degree murder and concealment of homicide. The investigation has revealed some shocking details regarding the crime. Apparently, all the other tenants of the building were afraid of Sandra Kolalu. When the officers arrived at the scene, Sandra was seen talking to the tow truck driver, asking him to drive her to Foster Beach under the pretext that her car had to be towed from there. However, when the officers went to the beach, they found blood-soaked rags in large bags. On October 10th, the tenants and neighbors heard loud screams from the resident of Francis Walker, which immediately raised their concerns. They began calling and texting her. The calls were not answered, but their text received replies, which, according to the officers, were sent by Kolalu. According to Fox 32, Chicago Police Department Chief of Detectives Brandon Denahan said the residents were very cooperative when they heard the scream. When they woke up in the morning, they immediately started texting the victim, started calling the victim. The victim didn't answer. There were some texts that were sent back from the victim's phone. It appears from what we know now that the defendant was sending texts from the victim's phone and not answering it. According to Denahan, Francis had served Sandra with an eviction notice on Saturday, October 8th. He believes this could have prompted the murder. Neighbors were concerned about the tow truck driver's safety after they noticed Kolalu conversing with him. They promptly exchanged numbers with him and informed him of the danger. They then followed the driver to the beach, where they found that large bags contained bloody rags, and informed the police. It was revealed that the driver was paid from Francis's card. So she stole money. Well, she stole the card to pay for it. The police later collected the evidence from the beach. Additionally, the tow truck driver was informed the tenants that large bags were dumped in garbage cans. Cops couldn't initially find evidence for foul play, but once they discovered the rags from the beach, they acquired a search warrant and were able to find some blood on Kolalu's room and on some knives. Later, they found dismembered body parts in the freezer. While they were inside, Kolalu was threatening the tow truck driver with a knife for talking to the other tenants. The CPD then responded to the situation and took Sandra under custody for pulling out a knife. However, Sandra, who has a history of misdemeanor offenses, insisted that she knew her rights and remained silent. After examining the scene and collecting evidence, the police came to the conclusion that Francis was killed in her room and was dismembered on the first floor. As for the tenants not being aware of the dismemberment, the police said, the way the residence is set up, there's a couple of apartments on the top floor, call it the second floor, and then on the floor where the victim lived. That is the same floor that Sandra resided on as well. And then there was a tenant in the basement, and there were deadbolts, so people had privacy. That's crazy. This woman is crazy as all bat shit. Like, this woman, all because she got served an eviction notice. Now it makes me want to know why she got served with that eviction notice. Because you don't just give an eviction notice just to give it. There has to be an underlying reasoning. And then he said, according to the neighbors, this woman just has a history of being the way that she is, which seems to me being very, very unstable. Clearly. But she got so mad with her landlord lady that she brutally and viciously murdered her and cut her body up, and then stored the pieces in the freezer. Took her money to pay for a tow truck to get rid of whatever evidence she could, and then threatened the tow truck driver with a knife because he was talking to the residents. Yeah, this woman gives me, when I put it this way, whenever someone does something like this instantly gives me serial killer vibes. Because some people, you know, wouldn't have the guts to actually go all the way and do something like that. If they're going to go and take someone out, it usually is a stab, maybe a couple of them, a gunshot or something like that. But when you go to the lengths of dismembering somebody, which means, you know, to cut them up like they're meat on the slab, that is going into the realm of being a serial killer to me. Now, the reason why I can't go there is because, well, with her, that was just one body she had. Now, if this was a repeated thing, then yeah, she would get that title. Good thing it's not. But it seems like any little thing could have set her off. And let me also point out this. This was the landlord. This is Francis Walker, the landlord in which Sandra Kalalu murdered and dismembered. As you can clearly tell, she is a PC woman. So you already know they're going to throw the book at her. But honestly, I think even if she wasn't, she was going to get the book thrown at her anyway because of how heinous the crime was, all because of an eviction notice. Again, like I said earlier, I would like to know why she was getting an eviction notice, but something tells me the neighbors were complaining about her. So this Sandra woman just had some issues. She had some very major issues going on with her, maybe in her personal life, and it was starting to, you know, bleed out into the rest of the tenants living in the building, that they just couldn't take it anymore and said, look, she's got to go. And maybe even the landlord was like, okay, something is clearly going on, but it's out of my hands now. You have to go. You have to leave. And we don't really have to ask for a motive, because it said that she murdered her almost as soon after she got this eviction notice. So there it is right there. So I'm sure, like, when this goes to trial, which most likely it will, that's when they're going to reveal why she was getting that eviction notice. They're probably not going to reveal it now because it's still very early in the investigation, or they may just save it as evidence for the trial to see what's inside that eviction notice and why, and the reason as to why she was being evicted in the first place. But based on her actions and what she did, no, any reason why she was getting evicted, it was, in my opinion, probably well deserved, considering what she did after she got that notice. But yeah, that's Sandra Kalalu. Trial or not, she's going to jail most likely for the rest of her natural life. Only 36. Only 36. And she took out a person that's old enough to be her mother, at the very least, or grandmother. That's crazy. Something else that indicates something is off about this woman too is because she has like 3 different mugshots. Like, she has this one, and I saw one where she had, like, it looked like a hijab on in one picture, and then she had another one where she was posed a slightly different way, again wearing a hijab in that one. So she has like 3 different mugshots. So this woman has a recorded history of crime. Of course, in the article it said that she had some misdemeanor prior, so those most likely where those mugshots came from. I don't know if they're going to try to connect them to this, but if they could link anything with her misdemeanors to that eviction notice, they probably will find a way to do so.